Hi, this is Emily Bowen-Moore, and this is Journalism 273. This video is the first tutorial practice, and this is for InDesign. And in this InDesign video, you're going to create a document, a print document. You're going to continue learning a lot about the navigation as we work through it. I'll explain what I'm doing and shortcuts along the way. And we're going to create an object with color. So we're going to create a colored background. In addition, you're going to place an image. We're going to look at your layer window and create layers. We are going to be placing copy and using the type tool and your paragraph options, which include indentions, hyphenation, leading and size of the type, paragraph styles, and drop caps. And we're also going to type on a path as well. So I would like to get started here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open my InDesign document here, and we're going to start a new document by going up to File, New. And it's going to give us some options here. We're going to go to the print area since we're doing this to print technically. And we're going to keep this letter size. We're in picas here, but you can change those units to inches if you like. If you are not sure and you're having to work in picas, you can always punch in the units in inches. So I could use the double quote for inches, and it will automatically convert for you. But we're going to keep this in inches to make it easy. I'm going to name this file. We're going to name our files the same each assignment that you do, or in the same way. We're going to put your last name first. I'm going to put more and then underscore and then whatever the project title is. And in this case it is Tutorial Practice 1. So it's very wise to keep all of your files consistently named. That way you can, you don't risk turning in the wrong file, and you don't take up all your memory of your computer by having multiple files that are not really being used. So you save room on your computer as well. We're going to keep this one page. So facing pages, if you had 2 pages, it would put them side by side. But we don't need to worry about that here. For your columns, this just gives us some structure in a column grid. We'll just add a few columns here. I'll do 6 columns. In between those columns you'll have gutters. Usually those are 1 pica, 2 points, or 1 pica. They're not very big, but they've got a little width to them. We're just going to leave that at default setting there. And here are our text margins. All of them are set the same by default here to a 1/2 inch. If we wanted to adjust these separately, I could click this button. Let's say we wanted our inside and outside margins a little bigger. And then bleed and slug margins. We won't use slug margins, but we may have a bleed margin. Usually I do that 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do all of these the same. So now I'm going to click Create. What a bleed margin does, this is our bleed margin out here. This allows us to bleed color or imagery off the page. This is the edge of our paper. This is our text margins that we assign, 1/2 inch and then 0.625. So now we have our document. This is what it looks like in work mode. In your toolbox over here, you can go over to the left and use 2 fingers and open your box to see your different viewing modes. We will mostly be working in normal mode, and then sometimes you can click W to see your print preview mode as well. But always work in your normal mode here. And I've got the layers window up. Now we've got our document. I'm going to open the layers window. We're working in layer 1 at the moment, so everything that we produce in this layer is going to have a bounding box that is blue. And the first thing we want to do is create an object with color. So we want to color this background and have it bleed off the page. just to utilize these bleed margins here. So your object tool is down here on your toolbox. It's the solid shapes. You have two types of shapes here, one with the X going through it. That's a frame. We're going to use that in a moment when we place an image. But our object tool, if we hold that down, we've got a few shapes here as well, rectangle, ellipse, and polygon. We're going to select the rectangle tool. And I'm going to click and drag over the entire area all the way to our bleed margin outside the page. And as soon as I do that, notice my panel accommodates this object. I've got all my options here to scale it bigger by manually. And I also have my transformation tools. I don't really need those at the moment. And I also have fill and stroke. Those are nice and handy here. I have my transparency here as well. Now fill and stroke, this is basically how I want to color inside for fill, and then the stroke is an outline, which we don't need in this case. So I'm going to leave that 0 as well. Now you can access color just by either double clicking on the box itself, and this will bring up your color picker, and you can navigate anywhere around there. And you can also slide these bars up and down to change from cool to warm palette here as you choose colors. I might choose something warm so we can see easily on top of what we're doing. So we're just going to do something close here. And we're already working in CMYK mode since we are doing this as a print document. Technically it's in CMYK color mode, and you've got your different areas where you can punch in your codes if you have specific swatches. For instance, if you saved a swatch on your InVision mood board, the hexadecimal code would be right here. If you punch in that code, it will give you that exact color, and then you can add it as a swatch. It will also fill in this box at the same time. So we're going to click OK. Now if I click the arrow, if I go back up here to the fill and I click the arrow, it's showing me my list of swatches, and you can see it saved this red swatch that we just made. You can also add more swatches by going to new swatch, or you can go up to the right hand or top right corner and you've got menu items there as well. We have our tint in our swatch window as well, so that's just going to make a lighter. It's like adding white to red. We can adjust the tint of that color to be lighter than what it is. Or transparency will do similar, but it's making it see-through. So I'm going to change this to just a very slight tint, maybe 20% here, so we can see what we're doing on top of it. So now we have a colored background, and this is layer 1. I'm going to go ahead and name this layer. I'm going to double click on that layer, and I'm going to call this background color. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer. This little empty area right here, if I click on it, it's going to lock this layer. That way now I can't do anything in this layer. So I can start a new layer by clicking on this little icon at the bottom. Again, you've got your top right menu where I could start a new layer. And this layer 2, I'm going to call this image, because we're going to place our image in this layer. And I can also use these eye toggles in my layer window. If I want to just make that first layer, this background color layer, invisible, I can just click the eye toggle and it makes it invisible. But it doesn't delete it, it just makes it invisible for the moment. Sometimes that's necessary if you can't see well, if you're working with elements on top. So image, I'm back in that red layer. So now I'm ready to place an image. So to do that, first we're going to create a frame for that image. So I'm going to go back over here to the toolbox for our frame tool, and if you hold that down, again you've got the 3 types of frames, the rectangle, ellipse, or polygon. I'm going to select rectangle frame, and I'm going to go ahead and drag that, and notice my bounding box is red because we're in this new layer here. And you're going to see an X through it. So anytime we do sketches before we do our digital work, when you're drawing out places or where you're wanting images or graphics, then you can do it the same way. Just draw a bounding box approximately the size you're envisioning and just putting an X through it. That's all that's necessary. So I'm going to select this, use my selection tool, I'm going to pull it up. Notice when I do that, I get pop-up guides to let me know when I have them centered. Alright, now you should have your image downloaded that I provided for you in the assignment folder. You will download that onto your computer, and there's two ways you can place the image. I've got the bounding box or the frame selected. I can either go to File, Place, or I can do the shortcut Command+D or Control+D if you're using a PC. So I'm going to do the shortcut, and I've got it here on my desktop, the Lyceum. Now notice it doesn't fill or it's awkwardly placed in the frame. So I can either adjust the frame bigger, which is kind of tedious, or I can double click to access the photo itself inside the frame. And I can make this smaller to fit in the frame. Now to do that though, I've got to do it proportionately. If we just take a handlebar and we move it in, notice how much that distorts and skews the image. That's not good. As a matter of fact, that will be a pretty big deduction if you do that. It's usually 1/3 of a letter grade each image that's skewed. So be very careful about not letting that happening or not letting that happen. So in order to scale this proportionately, when I grab the handle to scale this, I'm going to hold down the Command-Shift keys. And it's Control-Shift if you are using a PC. And this is going to make this image a little smaller than my frame, which is perfectly okay. At least it fits in there. I can click off and back onto the frame itself and adjust it to the image. And you also have the option to scale both at the same time. If I just select the frame and I hold down the Command-Shift keys, I can actually scale the whole thing bigger. And it's proportionate. But the Command-Shift keys are very important in InDesign. Control-Shift if you're using a PC. So now we have the image placed, and if I click W, you can see the print view without all of the rules and guides. And now we've got that. Now to keep moving forward, just so we don't have to worry about accidentally selecting our boxes that we've laid down, I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer as well and start one more layer that I'm going to call Type. And it's going to be green. Alright, so now we're ready to do some type options here. So I'm going to go to my type tool over here in my tool panel. In my type tool panel, I've got a regular type tool and I've got a type on a path tool. So first we're going to use the regular type tool. I'm going to go ahead and create a column over here to the left. We're going to eventually create two columns, so I'm going to keep this one right here. Now when I drag and let go, it automatically puts my cursor in place. You can go ahead and start typing, or in this case, for the purpose of this assignment, since we don't have specific text going into this box, and since it is an example, I'm going to go ahead and just put placeholder text here. So I'm going to go up to type and fill with placeholder text. I'm going to scan all the way to the bottom, and it's just going to automatically fill this text box for us, just for practice and example purposes. And it's already got this. Let me make this invisible for a moment. See the pink background? That's showing, that's indicating that it's not recognizing the font that we're using, and it will also show that you have an error missing font. So we don't want that. So I'm going to select all of it. I'm going to just go ahead and change this to the Georgia typeface, which is our university typeface. And let's look at this for a moment. Now we've got this box. I've selected the text box here, but notice we've got this little plus sign here. What that means is that there's more type than what is visible in the box at the moment. So it also adds another error here, overset text, and you don't want that either. So you can eliminate that one of two ways. You can either bring the box down to include the rest of the text, or you can select, I'm in my selection tool, I've selected the box, I can click on the arrow button itself and start another box and fill that, and it will continue in that next box. Now for this purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and extend this box down to make it a little easier for us, and then I'm going to move it up a little to fit. We want the type to be inside our text frame here. And you can use your arrow keys up and down or side to side to do minute adjustments there. Alright, now let's look at this type. It seems a little big. So I'm going to Command A or Control A to select all. And now we can start manipulating this text. I'm going to look at the panel at the top. We've got our typeface name, we've got the different styles, and size, leading, which is our line spacing. Here are other scaling tools. Just be careful using those. You don't want to skew or distort your text or lose the integrity of your type. But kerning and tracking are going to be a necessity sometimes. Sometimes the letters are too close together, so you have to extend them and make them further apart, or closer together if they're too close or too far apart. But right now, let's look at the type size. If we were looking at this in a magazine, 12 points might be a little big, so let's take that down to 11 points. But let's up the leading and the line spacing. Let's up that to 15 to give us a little bit more space between our lines of type so we can see and read it more easily. And notice right now, if we go to our paragraph window, I'm going to drag this over so we can look at this. We've got our options here. We also have the same options up here. Our alignment, we wanted it right aligned or centered or left aligned, justified, etc. We have our indentation settings here. Here's our drop cap settings at the two options at the bottom. And notice this hyphenation box. It's checked at the moment, which means that these words, when they run out of room in this text box, they're automatically going to hyphenate. So we want to select all our type and turn that off, and it will automatically adjust. And now we have our type somewhat situated. I would like to create a couple of paragraphs. So if we have our box selected, you can see the bounding box is highlit. I can go automatically back to my type tool just by double clicking in that box. So that's a shortcut way to go back to your type tool. I'm going to change this comma to a period, and so this will be another paragraph. So we can work with multiple paragraphs. I'm also going to take that one down. So that's a new paragraph. So this will give us 3 paragraphs technically. Now you can either distinctively adapt these paragraphs by adjusting the leading, like I could adjust that one line and make it a little farther apart. let's see, I did this one at 20. So that one, if that were in 20. So you could separate those. Or if I don't like that, I can use my undo key, my Control+Z, and take it back to where I had it. I could also indent these. So I could take my cursor and put it in front of the first character of these paragraphs and indent a little bit. You don't want to use the tab key because that indents too far, leaves too much pocket of space that's a little awkward to the eye. So we don't want to do it that way. We want to use our indentation settings here. So if I do that, I can, oops, let me go down to this paragraph. I guess it's not picking that up as a new paragraph. There we go. Now it is. And this one we'll do the same way. There we go. Now we've got our paragraphs kind of set up. And so once you get your settings like you want them for your body copy, you can select all of this. And I'm going to show you how you can save those settings so you don't have to do them individually all the time. So in your paragraph styles window, I'm going to pull that out as well. In your window box at the top, if you don't see your paragraph styles or any of your windows that we're using in your window selections over to the right, you can go to window in your top menu, and under styles there's all your style windows, and type and tables there's character and paragraph, all of those windows that are available there. So we've got this selected. What this is going to do is give us the option. We can create a new style here. I'm going to double click on it and call it body copy. And what that's doing is, let's say I want to create, or if I have multiple pages to this document, or say I want to create a new text box. I'm going to go ahead and extend it the same size. So let's say I want to do a new text box, and I'm going to go ahead and place filler, and I'm going to go ahead and select it all and change it to Georgia. So now I've got another text box. Well, I don't want to have to go through those individual settings all over again. So while I have it selected, I can just go to my styles where I saved all that and just click on body copy. And now it's doing everything I need it to do that's exactly like my previous text box. I've got my indentation set the same, my leading and type size is the same, etc. Okay. So, and since we have an error, and this is it, we have it overset type, I'm going to go ahead and just put the overset type outside since we don't have to worry about that. There we go. I'm just going to put it outside of here so we don't have to worry about that. It won't be visible. And now we have two columns of type the same. Now let's say I want to create a drop cap. Oops. I'm going to double click inside my box again. I'm going to go back to my paragraph window here. Let me enlarge this. So I'm going to select this D. I want this D to be a drop cap. But I want to get rid of this indentation first. So I'm going to go to that particular paragraph and I'm going to do away with the indentation. I'm going to select the character that I want to drop. And these bottom two are going to give me my tools for creating a drop cap. This right side is how many characters I'm dropping, which in this case it's 1. And the drop cap amount relates to the amount of lines in which it's dropping. So if I do 2, it's 2 lines of type, 3 lines of type, 4 lines of type, and so on. So I'm going to do 3. That should be visible enough. And in some cases, you may find that the characters next to the drop cap may be close or too far apart. You can always place your cursor in the first one and adjust the kerning or the space between those characters. So if it were too far apart, I could bring them closer, or if they're too close, I could give it a little space there. So now we have our drop cap. So far, let's check out what we've done here. We've created a background color, we've placed an image, we've placed copy, we've adjusted and created indentions, we've adjusted the hyphenation, we've adjusted the leading and size, we've created a paragraph style and a drop cap. All right. So now the last thing is typing on a path. So I'm going to keep my type window up here. I'm not going to change layers on this one. So to create a type on a path, you have to create the path first. So I'm going to go down here to my object tool. You can do this freehand too using your pencil tool or pen tool. But I'm just going to do this the easy way by selecting the ellipse tool. I'm just going to create an ellipse or arch for my path. I'm going to extend it to my text margins on either side. So here is my arch here. And I'm going to add a stroke to this just so we can see it temporarily. And now I'm going to go to my type tool and I'm going to hold it down and go to my type on a path. And notice when I hover back over my ellipse, it includes a plus sign. That's saying it's ready to type along that path. So if I click there, now I can type along this path. Alright, again, it's not recognizing my font. So just like a regular text box, you can do the same thing here. I'm selecting it all. I'm going to go ahead and change this to Georgia. Now you may not have this issue. It's an extra step you may not have to take. But now that I've got this, I want to enlarge the type a little bit, but notice how it's awkwardly going around the path now. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is I'm going to go back to my selection tool. If I enlarge here, notice I've got two bars. This represents the beginning and the end of that path. So I can scroll over this bar and you see my little bar with the arrow. So I can move this back this way. So I can move this around. So now I can go at the beginning and push the beginning back or pull it back so that I can fit the whole thing around more evenly than it is right at the moment. So that's pretty good right there. And I'm going to go back and select the path itself. I'm going to do away with the stroke. So now when we go to print view, which is our W, you can see it following the path and typing along that path. And you can see the arch. So that's how you type on a path. Just create the path first. All right. So that concludes our first tutorial practice. So again, we've created an object with color, a background color technically, bleeding off the page. We've placed an image. We've created layers. We've placed copy, used the type tool and paragraph options, and the type on a path tool. So any questions, please let me know. You are welcome to contact me if you are having trouble along the way. Good luck and thank you for listening, and I can't wait to see your results. So good luck. This is Emily Bowen-Moore, and this is the video for packaging your file in InDesign. I'm going to use the document that we produced in your tutorial practice, the first one. So we're going to get it ready here to package and submit into Box for your assignment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to scan all the way down to the bottom to Package here. And what packaging does is it puts all of the elements that you used in your document in one folder, and it does all this for you. You don't have to do it manually, and it allows me, when I open up your packaged folder, to see all your components. If I don't have the particular typeface or font that you used in your document, then I have access to it. So when you click to package, you will have a series of different windows. Right here, you're going to just click package. And the printing instructions, you don't have to worry about filling all of this out, but at the top we want to make sure that file name is still consistent with what you named your file. In this case it is Moore, last name first, _ tutorial practice 1. So I'm going to click continue. This window is asking where do you want to put the folder once we have packaged it. So it will add the word folder to your file name, which is okay. And we want to make sure these two boxes here are checked. We have your INDD extended file, which is the file you're working in the 2017 version of Adobe InDesign. And then we have our box to include our IDML version, which is compatible to older versions. So say I opened your document on a computer that had CS4, for instance. I would need to use this file to be compatible with older versions of InDesign. And I'm also including this checked box to include a print PDF. So this PDF, if I were printing this document, I would print from the PDF itself. So I'm going to click package. I'm putting it to my desktop. And this warning will come up every time. This basically is letting you know if you did download fonts or use fonts that were not in the system, to make sure that you are following the proper license agreement and are not infringing on trademark or copyright. So now it's packaged. I'm going to minimize this screen. And if we look on our desktop here, here is our packaged folder. So if I open that up, it's showing my document fonts, which is the Georgia here that I used in the document. It's showing my links, which is the image that we placed. And it has all three versions of my document, so I can adapt it if I need to. All right. So what we're going to do to submit this is we're going to select the folder. I'm going to right click, or you can control click. And we're going to go to compress, and what it's going to do is it's going to create a zip file, which on a Mac, that is the compressed version of your file. And when we go into box, I will have a tutorial practice window or folder, I'm sorry. And inside that folder or assignment folder, you'll have a section for or you'll have a folder for your section. So all you have to do, you can either go to upload file and pick up your zip file from your desktop. Here it is here. Or you can choose that and do it that way. Or you can click and drag it into box. So I can also say you are in section 2, I can click and drag that to section 2 and drop it. So if I go into section 2, you can see my zip packaged folder here with the proper file name, last name _ and the project title, which in this case is Tutorial Practice 1. So I want you to learn how to package and practice packaging your files in InDesign, because that is the requirement for all of your InDesign documents that you produce in this class. You will have to package them and compress them in order to submit them in box for the assignment. Okay? So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm available if there are any confused or any confusion on the tasks or the windows that pop up when you are packaging, or any confusion at all on this process. So good luck, and thank you for listening.